When hearing the word billionaire, most people imagine an old man in an Armani suit with a smug, satisfied grin on his face, sitting in his penthouse as he sips champagne and twirls his mustache. Well, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but most people would at least imagine a man. However, with today's video, we aim to show you that women can be just as wealthy and climb just as high, if not higher, than the men. Number 5. As of right now, the 5th richest woman in the world is Jacqueline Mars, an heiress to the Mars family fortune and a prolific reckless driver. More about that later. Jacqueline has a net worth of $31.7 billion and spent a good chunk of her life working for Mars as the Food Product Group president until her retirement in 2001. She is twice divorced and has 3 children from her first marriage, all in line to inherit her wealth. Jacqueline's networking landed her a lot of good jobs, which she works on concurrently, as she is the director for the Washington National Opera and the National Sporting Library and Fine Arts Museum, as well as sitting on the National Advisory Council of the Journey Through Hallowed Ground, a foundation promoting American heritage in the region, stretching from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. As stated by Littlefinger in HBO's Game of Thrones, titles do seem to breed titles. She had a car accident in 2013 where she fell asleep behind the wheel and crashed her car into a minivan on the US Route 50 in Aldi, killing a passenger and injuring another enough to cause a miscarriage. Rich people rarely go to jail. She pled guilty to the misdemeanor charge of reckless driving, as she was in charge for vehicular manslaughter. Number 4. Mackenzie Scott Tuttle is the ex-wife of world-renowned billionaire Jeff Bezos and was involved in the American multinational technology company Amazon ever since its inception. On top of that, she is a renowned novelist and philanthropist. She was born in San Francisco, California, and started writing ever since she was 6. Mackenzie worked as Jeff's assistant at D.E. Shaw, and the two ended up dating, eventually marrying and having a total of 4 children together. She claims to have written her debut novel, The Testing of Luther Albright, in 10 years due to her involvement in the growth of Amazon and the raising of her 3 children. In fact, Scott was one of Amazon's first employees, and a lot of future success Jeff's company would see could be credited directly to her effort, or so she would later claim, because in 2019, she divorced the man competing for the spot of richest person in the world. Her divorce netted her 25% of the couple's stock in Amazon, and her net worth skyrocketed to $62 billion. She's donated $12.5 billion to more than 1,250 organizations in less than 2 years, seemingly competing with her ex-husband in a charity contest. She signed a Giving Pledge, a campaign to encourage the extremely wealthy people to contribute a majority of their wealth to philanthropic causes, and revealed her marriage to the high school teacher Dan Jewett. Today, she has a net worth of $43.6 billion. Number 3. Julia Margaret Fletcher Koch is our 3rd entry on today's list. She is the 60-year-old widow of David Koch, the controversial billionaire we covered in a previous video, where we also discussed the Waltons and the Mars family. Julia spent her early childhood in Indianola, Iowa, but moved to Arkansas at the age of 8. Even though they came from a farming background, Julia's family were businessmen, owning and running furniture and clothing stores. Her background allowed her to study and eventually graduate from the University of Central Arkansas, and her beauty gave her the opportunity to become a model and eventually a fashion designer. She would meet David in 1998 on a blind date, but she didn't like him at first. However, the two would eventually start dating after randomly meeting again at a party. Goes to show how complicated relationships can be. The two would later marry and conceive 3 children. When David died, his wife and kids would end up inheriting everything he owned. This in turn made Julia one of the richest women in the world, with an estimated net worth of nearly $31.7 billion. When David was alive, the two would frequently donate part of the wealth to charity foundations. But after David's passing, Julia became the president of the David H. Koch Foundation, and she now spends her days hosting charity events and trying to give back to the less fortunate. Number 2. Here we have a member of the royal family of Walmart, Alice Walton, the heiress of Sam Walton's wealth, along with her 3 brothers. She was raised in Arkansas and went on to become an equity analyst and money manager, eventually making a lateral career move to switch to airport administration. She even got the Alice L. Walton Terminal building named after her. She would go on to live in Walton's Rocking W Ranch in Millsap, Texas, her love of horses outshining any interest she had in business. She lived there for a while before selling the ranch off and moving to Fort Worth, Texas, to run the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, which she founded herself and opened in 2011. She is a private collector of paintings herself, owning a personal collection of great works of art, which she often talks about in interviews. Each piece she buys coming with a lengthy story. Alice is currently 60 and has $65.3 billion. Number 1. As of today, Françoise Bettencourt Meyers is the richest woman in the world, with an estimated net worth of a staggering, get this, $74.8 billion. You might be spotting a pattern with this list, as she also inherited her wealth from her mother, Liliane Bettencourt, formerly the world's wealthiest woman in 2018. Françoise's outrageous wealth can be traced back to her grandfather, the founder of the personal care and cosmetics company L'Oréal, because she's worth it. Raised as a strict Catholic and the granddaughter of a man who was on trial for collaborating with the Nazi government, she would nonetheless marry Jean-Pierre Meyers, whose grandfather was murdered at Auschwitz. But Françoise was no stranger to controversy, declaring her mother to be mentally incompetent after she gifted vast sums of money, we're talking billions of dollars, to a photographer friend of hers, which Françoise also sued. This led to what is known as the Bettencourt Affair, which is beyond the scope of this video, but you're gonna love reading about it if you enjoyed The Wolf of Wall Street. That's it for today's videos, folks. Tune in next time for more stories about the lives of the rich and powerful. And if you enjoy our content, be sure to like this video, comment, and subscribe to our channel, where we try to understand the enigma of wealth.